the future. But from this analysis, we just looked at these 7 salts for heavy metals and microplastics. Okay, so let's get into the rankings. So I'm gonna start with Morton iodized sea salt. This is a sea salt, but it's a refined sea salt, and it's iodized. I would prefer to have a salt that doesn't have iodine added. I'm getting iodine from raw milk, from eggs, from meat. I don't think I need extra iodine in my salt. And if you look at the ingredients of this salt, it's not only sea salt, it's also dextrose, potassium iodide, sodium bicarbonate, and yellow prussiate of soda, which is an anti-caking agent. I prefer my salts not to have anti-caking agents. So this salt was clean. It didn't have any microplastics or any heavy metals, but I'm gonna call it is number 5 out of 7 because it has those anti-caking agents and other additives. And this one really surprised me. This is Redmond real salt. Because this is pulled from a mine in Utah, it had a significant amount of lead at 0.6 micrograms per serving. So a serving is 1 teaspoon. I would potentially use this amount of salt in a single meal. Maybe it's a little more than you use in a meal. Most people might use 3 to 4 grams in a meal, but I want you to understand this is not a large serving of salt at 5 grams. The Redmond real salt had 0.6 micrograms of lead over the Prop 65 limit in 1 single teaspoon of salt. That's how I'm reporting these findings, is micrograms of heavy metals per 5 grams of salt or 1 teaspoon of salt. The Redmond real salt also had 0.75 milligrams of aluminum per teaspoon. Again, not a huge amount, but these things add up over time. I was bummed to see this one had a significant amount of lead and a significant amount of aluminum in the Redmond real salt. It also had a small amount of arsenic at 0.08 micrograms per teaspoon. That's not a ton, but many of these other salts had none, so could have been better. Kirkland sea salt. I know a lot of you probably use this one. It's sold at Costco. It didn't have any significant lead or arsenic. That's the good news. The bad news is it had the highest amount of aluminum at 1.7 milligrams of aluminum per teaspoon. So I would not use this one. Relative to the other salts, that is more aluminum than any other salt in the study. You've got Maldon and Jacobson. These are both very good sea salts. I use Maldon a lot when I'm traveling. Maldon has a really nice texture. It looks really cool. Neither of these had any heavy metals, so no lead, no arsenic, no aluminum. The only strike against these is that there was a very small amount of microplastics in our testing. The problem with this is that we were testing for microplastics that were bigger than 1 micrometer. I want to repeat the testing and go look at nanometer-sized microplastics. That's very difficult and very technical. We'll hopefully do that in the future, but I figured if there were some micrometer-sized microplastics, there were probably smaller nanometer, 50 to 500 nanometer microplastics in these salts. So they had a small amount of microplastics, which is what kept them from the top spot, but they're very clean and these are great salts. So what is the best salt? What's number 1? And then I'll tell you what the worst salt is. So number 1, the best salt in this test is the Diamond Kosher salt. Now this surprised me a little bit, but this had no microplastics. It's actually packaged in a paper container, and it had no lead, no mercury, no arsenic, no aluminum, nothing. So this is a salt that I never even thought about. I probably had seen it on grocery store shelves and just walked by it. I don't need that salt. Who cares about that? Who cares? But now this is probably my favorite salt. It tastes good. It doesn't have the same texture as a Maldon salt, but it's a very good salt from what I can see, and it's very clean. It's from an underground deposit in Michigan that's been used for decades. It's made through a process called the Allberger process, which is a special evaporative process that gives the grains a special shape. It tastes pretty good. What I also love about the salt, it's super affordable. This is a small container. You can get a huge container for $8 or $9. It's I've been spilling it all over the place. Look at that. That's great. We'll keep that in the video. This is a pound of Diamond Kosher salt, and this is even cheaper than this Maldon salt, which is half as much salt. So in terms of cost and cleanliness, it's hard to beat the Diamond Kosher salt, and it tastes good. So that's the number 1. Now, the worst sea salt, I'm bummed about this one, guys. Celtic sea salt. I've used this a lot in my life, but check this out. 2.3 micrograms of lead per teaspoon. If you had 10 grams of this, you could get almost 5 micrograms of lead per day just from this salt, which many of us use. It's actually not very clean. It had significant levels of lead, arsenic, and aluminum. Now, it's important to know, Prop 65 lead, 0.5 micrograms per serving. Even the FDA recommends that kids have less than 2.2 micrograms of lead per day. So if you just put 5 grams of this on your kid's food throughout the day, you've already eclipsed the FDA recommendation. Again, no safe level for lead just from the salt. There's other lead in their foods they're eating, especially if they're eating processed foods. It was almost the highest in every single thing we tested, which is clearly making it the worst. It gets the booby prize. You do not want to be using this salt, I'm sorry to say. It seems like it would be healthy. It's trendy in health circles, but it squarely goes